Okay, I'm a very interactive individual, so I'm just going to say this up front, that I'm going to love you guys to talk back with me. Does that sound okay? Ask some questions to your neighbor situation. So to start us off, as we discuss this idea of social media, phone use, media, all the things, I'm going to ask you a vulnerable question. By a show of hands, who here charges your phone somewhere without arm's reach from your bed? It's like in your kitchen, across the room. Who has your phone not charging in your bedroom? Okay, you guys, for your hands raised, good on you. For everyone else, this is a very easy shift. I'm gonna ask you guys to think about changing, okay? Go on Amazon, buy yourself an alarm clock. That is one of the easiest ways, a simple little tip to figure out how we get our phones out of our beds, have more space to have original thoughts in our minds. Okay, turn to your neighbor sitting next to you and just quickly discuss for like 1 or 2 minutes, how would you currently describe your relationship with your phone? Are you guys in a good relationship? Is it complicated? Do you wish you could break up more? Do you want more time together? Kind of just real quick, talk about how you and your phone are currently engaging with one another. Okay, let's bring it back. I can't move. I'm a mover, sorry, Kelsey. Okay, I'd love to hear from people out there. What are some things you guys talked about? Give me some insight. Just shout it out. How are you guys in your phone doing? TikTok? Good? Maybe you want to get rid of it? How's it feel? Gotta get rid of it? Okay, when's your most prone time to scroll? Okay, what time though? Yeah. Ugh. Do you think you go to bed later because you're on your phone? Yeah? Okay, what else? What else do you talk about? Certain apps, when you do your things on your phone, all that kind of stuff. You have like 3 more people in the audience. Come on. YouTube? Okay, yeah. My husband had to do the full lockdown on YouTube for the shorts, but also on the Safari browser thing. When do you go on your doom scroll or your video watching usually? Okay, all day. That's the honesty I'm looking for. Thank you for that. So like between work things, just popping on for a little here and there.
I work on art, so I have like a podcast or cooking show or like a film analysis on all the time. So it's always that.
And that's the hard part too with social media, because sometimes it's for our jobs. Like our screen time report is kind of skewed because we actually use them for our jobs sometimes, or you need inspiration. So it's a hard line to figure out the boundary line really is. Okay, 2 more people. What do you guys talk about? Instagram? Are you like, me and Instagram are in a great relationship. I never overuse it. We never stay up too late together. You had to delete it, yeah? Is anyone currently like, I had to delete it, it's off my phone right now? Okay, that's awesome. We go through our waves, right? It's like full fast to like full addiction. It's just constantly this back and forth relationship. Okay, 1 more. Okay, honestly though, I did this talk a little while ago. No, this is so real. This is so real. Thank you for sharing that. 1, good on you for having and understanding your finances. But 2, I talked to a lady about this, and her most used app was the Stock app on Apple. And it just shows you kind of where your mind goes though, right? And how you can get obsessed around stuff. Again, it is important to know your finances. Everyone should have a budget. I love Monarch. But it does show you kind of where your attention, your worries, and your fear go. So tonight we can talk about social media and faith. And this is a topic I've been very, very passionate about for a number of different reasons. But like was shared earlier on, I just gave birth to my second little girl, Piper. And my oldest is 2, so just under 2 years, or 20 months, under 2 years. And you guys, it is so sad how much she knows I love my phone. And it's kind of cute where she puts it to her ear and babbles nonsense, and it's adorable. But then when she I take it from her because she finds it on the ground and she starts wailing. It shows you how early on in these little kiddos' lives they watch mom and dad on their screens. And it's something that we all know is shaping us. We all probably feel in our hearts we need to have bigger boundary lines around how we use our phones and these apps. But today, as we discuss our time together, we're going to be approaching this topic from a few different angles. We're going to be diving into some just straight research and data. We're going to be looking at a few stories from my own life that I experienced in the last couple of months. And we're going to be looking at it through the lens of how is the enemy's strategies and schemes making us be shaped kind of more into the image of culture sometimes versus what Christ has for us because of our phones. Does that all sound good? Are we in this together? Okay, I'm going to pray for us and we can hop in. Lord, thank you so much for this space that Kelsey and her team has put together. It is essential to be in spaces that are shaping us into the people that you desire us to be. It's hard to find truth nowadays, and this is a space people can come and find that truth and ask hard questions. And like was prayed earlier on today, leave not just with more information in our brains, but actually transformed. Because we all consume enough. We all can go find a podcast or an Instagram account or whatever it is. But Lord, for some reason, everyone's in this room tonight because they want transformation to some degree. And so, Lord, I pray that your Spirit comes and makes this heart to find more space for mental clarity or for rest or for just truth, not just this shallow surface level desire, but a deep yearning to understand there is so much more out there for us. So be with us in this conversation tonight. Amen. Okay, so 6 months ago, I gave birth to Piper. For our last two births, we didn't decide to know the gender until we actually gave birth. And so going into that moment, it was just what's it gonna be? So obviously after labor, Piper came out. JJ said that it was a girl, and we just knew her name was Piper Joy. It was just this most incredible experience with so many emotions. If anyone here has given birth, you know that there is a lot of emotions that come as your body gives birth. And between experiencing that moment afterwards, we got up to our postpartum room. My mom and sister came and visited us. It was so fun telling everyone about our daughter and sharing the story and these experiences. And then after a little bit of time, it's just me and JJ in our room. And JJ and I love humans. We operate with the community a lot. And so we found ourselves so excited to share that we had another girl, to share her name, to share all the stats about her weight and everything. And next thing I knew, we were on our phones, texting everyone, she's here, she was born at this time, which actually, side note, she was born at the exact same time in the exact same room as my other child. Wasn't that, it's one of those weird things, okay, Lord, that was just wild. So we were so excited to share the story. But what I started to find in my soul as the minutes passed, and then there's a handful of minutes, and the next thing I knew, 30 to 45 minutes had passed of me and JJ just texting on our phones, not talking and not looking down at this 4-hour-old human being. And I remember in my head thinking, I wish we just waited till tomorrow to text everyone. What was this urgency that we felt so now that we had to do this? And as I've been diving into social media the last couple of months, I think that example is what is more important than finding boundary lines for our phones. It's not that moment was ruined when our daughter came here and that we were sitting and delighting in her, kind of being distracted by our phones too. It was that I think that moment, there was fullness left on the table because we were worried about sharing with other people. Again, that's not bad. It's so important to be operating in community and sharing the good news, but at what cost? What would delight have looked like if we just lingered, just me and JJ in that conversation before having to text everyone? What would our conversation gone to if we just let ourselves sit there and be we're just gonna actually protect this moment between me and you and look at this really 3-hour-old baby who just came from my body? There's so much wonder in that. And what would the Lord have said if we just sat in silence and just sat there and just looked at the creation that came from 2 little cells into a human being? I think and believe that so much delight and so much wonder is lost because of our phones. There's also things that are added to us depression and anxiety and all those things, but there's just so much lost in this idea of the fullness that Christ invites us into. And so for you, it might not have been a birth story. And I know probably in this room too, as we know, part of you are probably hoping for a birth story. I want you to know that God sees you in that. But maybe it's a group of friends that you hang out with, and then as soon as they all left and you were home alone, instead of sitting there and pondering over what you guys talked about, you're on your phone, scrolling social media, feeling insecure how you weren't invited to the other person's party. Or maybe it was this idea that after a long day at work, you come home, and instead of just talking to God about how frustrated you are, or how lonely or how empty you feel about your job, you're on your phone looking at what you could have been, and it only adds more flame to the fire about how you don't feel content in your season of life. Whatever your example is, I can imagine there is just space that God wants to give you to interact with him with your emotions that your phone is taking away from you. And so my main point in all of this is that I believe our phones and all forms of media have created a habit that hinder our ability to experience fullness the way Christ desires us to do this. And this comes back to John 10:10. So we're going to look at this verse again, and we're going to break it into kind of two parts throughout our evening tonight. But Christ comes to give us life and life to the full, but the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So I did it in reverse. The first part of this verse talks about how the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Those are very aggressive words, and it's real. We have seen his schemes at large this last week, have we not? And it's asking us to recognize with fresh eyes that there is a spiritual world, there is good and there is evil. And being people of the light, we got to fight for that, friends. And so just like he tries to steal, kill, and destroy, I think when it comes to social media, it comes through the idea of numbing, dulling, isolating, and distracting us from what Christ has for us. And then on the flip side of that, this idea of life to the full, I don't even think we know a fraction of what life to the full looks like, because what our fullness in our minds looks like is what we see on social media usually. Of course, we have amazing pastors in our lives who are kind of casting this vision to us, and we get to hear from them maybe on a Sunday morning or maybe through sermons throughout the week on podcasts. But the majority of what we see is not actually fullness. Most people in our lives are not walking in the fullness that Christ has to offer. And so when you find those people that have that, we got to hold on to them. But even more than that, we have to go find the source itself, which is Jesus in Scripture. And this is a thought that I had just randomly musing probably one day feeding my daughter in the middle of the night. But if you were to think about surrounding yourself, like influencers, right? We all have influencers that we probably have, or people we follow on social media that are for our house or for our bodies or for our families or for our careers, whatever it is. But imagine if you had only a curated feed of just Jesus people, like the most incredible Jesus humans who are walking out the true fullness of Jesus. That still wouldn't be enough because they're not walking with you in the flesh. But then imagine if you were living in an actual community of just the most incredible Jesus people all the time in person and in the flesh. That would be amazing, but it still wouldn't be enough because you're looking to others to help shape what your fullness looks like. And the enemy is so hungry to get rid of originality. And so the only way that you can figure out what your fullness is to go to the source, to sit in his presence and ask him, what does my fullness look like in my life? And so part of this discussion tonight is this idea of stirring up a hunger to find the original you. If you look around, I go to playgrounds a lot nowadays, and I kind of walk during high school or schools coming and going. Kids look the exact same. Right? They all kind of have the exact same outfits nowadays. And my sister's husband spent some time in Nicaragua with their family, and his mom's still there as a missionary. And she was saying how the culture of the Nicaraguan kids look American now because of social media. Again, enemy schemes here, kind of removing all originality. And so my heart for our time together today is to be able to see how the enemy works, the schemes that he has going through social media, and this call to find your own originality and be like, there is something so special in you that the enemy wants to dull, to distract, to isolate, to make not you. Does that sound okay? You going for this? Okay. So after I had that situation with Piper in the hospital, I was like, something has to change. It kind of was a wake-up call for me of needing to have more space. And so I decided to delete all my apps, including Marketplace, which is for sure my most frequented app. Anyone else out there love a good deal? I'm obsessed. It's so bad. For 3 months. So while I was on maternity leave, I had no access to the apps. I will say, though, I gave birth 2 weeks early. And so I was like, I have some wiggle room in this, post a few more times. isn't it weird how you have these little kind of ways to make sense in your mind? So I posted like 4 or 5 times, and then I exited out of it. Our brains do weird things. I'm trying to be real with you guys. I'm up here because I'm also working through this myself. But in that 3-ish months of being off social media, it was wild to see what I felt and I experienced that I was not really even aware that I would experience going into it. So the first one, I had a few friends who were close to giving birth or had just had a wedding. And I was like, when's their baby going to get born? Is it born yet? I went to their wedding photos. And they kept wanting to download the app to go check. And I had this moment, and I'm like, I could call them. I could text them. I realized that social media, though created to build and bring connection, was doing the opposite for me in a way that actually meant meaning. So how many of you have a friend out there who's going through something, and you're like, I haven't talked to them in a while, let's scope out their feed, and you go check on their Instagram feed, then never call them. Probably you're all guilty of that. But again, the enemy's scheme, you see that? Connected but not knowing. Fascinating. The next one was because I wasn't having information fed to me on my feed, I had to find myself going out and finding information. So I was like, okay, Krista, what are you curious to learn more about in this season? And for that, it was all this information about phone use, technology in the household, how to raise kids around technology. And I was not just skimming through short form content anymore. I found myself reading stuff. Shocking. Who reads Instagram caption anyways anymore? What? Good job. Yeah, a little ahead of this. We don't read anymore. But the thing is, when you read, your brain gets stimulated. You think about stuff differently. You actually learn stuff instead of just scrolling and getting insecure. Am I speaking to people out there? Yes. And so it was fascinating how much smarter I was getting not being on social media. I shopped less because algorithms, they know what you want. And they're giving you this constant message of more of this, you're not content, buy these things. So I saved money during this time. I felt so much more content. Like I was actually so surprised by how content that I felt during that time. And then the one that was the best one was how much more in love I felt with the Lord. It created space to just sit with him. With Blakely, my first, when I was breastfeeding, I'd like be scrolling social media in the middle of the night and just like trying to stay awake. Again, you learn a lot from your first or second. But those times are now more so than not filled with sitting with Jesus. And that space is so essential to be able to see and hear what God has for us. But after those 3 months, 4-ish months, whatever it was, got back on the gram, and all the things started coming back. We can sprint and do these like moments of life, and we have these gaps, we have this room to breathe, but we do know that we're addicted because we just keep going back to it. And so what I needed to do was figure out how to put actual boundary lines in place because I wanted to have a change. And I don't think that having boundary lines in our life is like a pass-fail mentality. I think it's a participation award. That if you are trying to put boundary lines around your phone use, you're doing a great job because you are trying to create space for what God has for you. And we're humans. We have big tech who are spending millions of dollars to get your attention and sell it to someone else. And so we have to understand that there is a war out there for our attention, and we need to put in practical boundary lines to actually create space for ourselves. So with all that said, I'm going to go into some data and some facts that I found that were just completely mind-blowing. So The Anxious Generation, a book written by a guy named Jonathan Haidt. 100% recommend reading this book if you are interested at all in how your phone's impacting your life, or if you have anyone who's even like younger than you who has a phone. His whole thesis was that when the iPhone came out in 2007, that when kids are going through puberty, which I'm guessing is actually probably half of you guys who are out here who are Gen Z. I don't know how old the actual room is. But he was saying that when you went through puberty with an iPhone, your childhood was marked no longer as play-based, but as phone-based. And there is some ridiculous stats I'm going to share here in this next slide. Okay, so all these stats are inherently good, but the story they tell is sad. So the shaded line on the graphs is showing the year when the iPhone came out, and you can see the spike of the graph. So this first one here is hospital admissions for unintentional injury. So think kids playing on the playground, playing football outside, breaking their arms, spraining their ankle, being boys, being girls, right? Crazy kind of things. Do we see the decline that happened? Kids stopped playing. They stopped roughhousing. They stopped being out there life on life with individuals because they started being on their phones and with video games and being in their rooms doing their things by themselves. The next one is teens engaging in adult activities. Again, They're good stats overall, but they tell a different story. So people are having less sex. People are getting the driver's license less. They're consuming less alcohol. Again, those are all things that show socialization and like life on life being had. This is just the definition of what isolation is looking like in our world. Okay, the next one, mental illness among college students. Anxiety, depression, we can just see, as we all know, is just skyrocketing because of our phones. This next one is suicide rates, which is just so sad. The spike that happened there, a dramatic spike around boys and girls when the phone came out. And then there's one more. Yeah, emergency room visits for self-harm, and girls more so than boys. But these stats tell the story. Like, it is impossible to see what their phones are doing to us, into the lives that we are living, and the way the enemy is getting in on all these different parts. So he came together, and he had, the author had these 4 foundational harms from our phone use. And I'll just fly through them. I could talk about this book forever. But social deprivation is the first one, sleep deprivation, attention fragmentation, and addiction. Can anyone relate to this in their own life? Late night scrolling on TikTok, the YouTube video watching, trying to get work done and needing to pull your phone out to get distracted for a second. Again, this idea of being able to find ways to feel like you have social connection, but it really isn't social connection because you're doing it on your phone. It's just wild. Okay, so this next one is a guy, book called Wisdom Pyramid, written by a guy named Brett McCracken. And this quote just like it haunts me, and I think it just puts into perspective how we are consuming media in our world. It says, our world has more information, but less and less wisdom. More data, less clarity. More stimulation, less synthesis. More distraction, less stillness. More pontificating, less pondering. More opinion, less research. More speaking, less listening. More to look at, less to see. More amusements, less joy. There is more, but we are less. Do you guys feel this in your own life? Do you see this happening in our world? More information at our hands is just not what we need. It's what we are all ascribing to. And so in his book, his idea is, can you actually go back one slide to show the cover of the book? His idea is that our lives are mostly formed as the bottom of our wisdom pyramid being our phones, when in reality it gets switched. So our foundation should be the Bible, and then it needs to be our church community, then nature, and then reading, and then arts and entertainment, and then our phone use. And so he started off his entire book talking about 3 sources of our sickness. And this first one is information gluttony. And it was interesting when I was reading this, where I didn't have language for this stuff, but I felt it in my soul. And then when I read it, I was like, oh, this is exactly how I'm feeling. So we can't consume enough. We always just want more. Who here it has been once in your lifetime listening to a podcast, maybe on a long road trip, you listen to 4 or 5 of them, and you're like, what did I just listen to? And you're like super inspired in the moment, your whole life's gonna change, and then you're like, I have no idea what to listen to. Like, it's just evident that we want more and more information. And it's cool because information is good, but if you don't actually put it into your life and see change from it, it's not going to result in anything down the road being different. And then perpetual novelty. We have been conditioned to always want new, and this never leaves us satisfied. We had a conversation the other week about, remember when like a package came on your door and it was like only your birthday or maybe Christmas? Like, remember that feeling? Like, oh my gosh, is it for me? And now like once a week, 3 times a week. Come on, everyone. You know how many packages you get from Amazon? We always want the new thing, and it's so easy to buy the new thing. Do you kind of see how the enemy is like shaping your brain through these ways of consuming content? And this last one is just fascinating, but a look within autonomy. Truth has been dissolved into phrases like, you do you, follow your heart and my truth, resulting in general mistrust of what we hear and receive. This, to me, is just why we need Jesus so much more in this world. It's why we saw churches packed this last weekend, because it is hard to find truth. It is hard to find meaning in a world that is just confusing and looks super evil. And luckily, we have the answer, and it's Jesus. But this is also why it's hard to engage with people in conversation who don't know God, because how do you talk against someone who says, my truth is my way? And so this is one that I still struggle with. Like, I want to figure out still more language on how to interact with this in a way that brings people's attention back to actually knowing that there is something foundational to stand on in arguments, but I'm still not there yet. And in all of this, what is really fascinating is it comes to this idea that I think our phones make us want to be like God in the sense of being all-knowing and omnipresent. Look at this quote. It says, the cumulative effect of too much information, so easily and constantly accessible to us, creates a burden that our minds and souls were not created to bear. Who felt heavy this last week? There was so much that we were asked to carry. We were asked to carry families that were being separated from death. We were asked to carry young individuals whose lives were cut too short. We were asked to carry, I have chills, we were asked to carry so much stuff. And the saddest thing is I'm guessing it's actually hindering how you're carrying your own community. How much energy you have to care for the souls that you do life with, to call your mom who's kind of hard to deal with, but like she's your mom. Like this is how I feel in my own life too. And what is fascinating is listening to a podcast, and this is not just from his own podcast, is very well known, but this is why we think the Apple logo is what it is that we are asked to take a bite out of the apple and become like God and be all-knowing. Fascinating how our phones have this temptation that we should be all places at all times and know everything. That is not the life we've been called to live. So, I want to identify a few of the enemy's schemes that I have seen just through all of this. I know there's plenty more, but I think when we're able to see how the enemy works and call it out, we're able to get more of this like holy dissatisfaction and anger and wanting to fight against his schemes and find the fullness that he offers us into. So we have anxiety, depression, and loneliness. I think we can all agree that we know it's this epidemic we're experiencing right now is one of loneliness. These are all things that we can experience through our phones. We feel connected yet not known. We don't actually maybe know how connected really does feel to be vulnerable in a space, to be in an environment that you can actually come and be open to having conversations where you don't know the outcome of them, to share a hard thing, knowing they're going to respond to you. I think it's also fascinating where when you are having an online relationship, whether with texting with a friend or like DMs, you have time to respond and like reply back to them. But in real life, that vulnerability comes when you have no idea if they're going to talk to you in return. And that's where we're actually called to sit in with each other, that tension of not knowing. The enemy is letting us be modeled after culture, not of Christ, through all things we're seeing on our phones. So much consumerism. This is a whole other topic, but I do feel like this needs to get talked about at some point, our spending habits. This lie that we are just never enough. And then this bottom one is just so sad, but we become so apathetic to actually going after the things that we want. And so distracted from the goal, the ultimate goal, obviously, of knowing Christ and letting others know him too. But all of these things, you can see the enemy's schemes in them. So I have one more quote I'm going to share real quick, and then we're going to do some kind of tangible workshop-y things with our phones. But again, this guy's name is Jonathan Placuto. He goes by JP. Shout out. We love Becoming Something. Such a good podcast. This quote also just rocked me. It says, "Who told you you were naked? Who told you you weren't good enough, pretty enough, fast enough, rich enough, that your house wasn't big enough, that your wife wasn't hot enough as your friends? Your phone did. Satan did through your phone. And yet we willingly pull it out every single day so many times." So with that being said, how much time do you guys think an average American, right? Person, they did it all across, Americans, spends a day on their phone? Just like all the time, social media, emails, work, phone calls, everything. What do you guys think is the average time on your phones? 8, 10, 12? Okay, this is not including like your computer work time. You're getting 8 hours off, not your computer, so your phone. Okay, yeah. Show us the answer. 5 answers in 16 minutes. So again, it's interesting because as we know, so much of our lives now operate on devices. So it's like, it's hard to kind of figure out what's healthy and what's not healthy. Bring it back. But that's 5 hours on our phones. I'm pretty sure we're going to have all you guys check your own screen report to see how you go up against the averages. But all of this time, it shapes us. You understand this, right? All of our time is being sent to something to shape who we are as individuals. So this next quote is by John Mark Comer. He has written a number of books that kind of talk to this topic in different various ways. But it says, for those of us who desire to follow Jesus, here is the reality we must turn and face. If we're not being intentionally formed by Jesus himself, then it's highly likely we're being unintentionally formed by someone or something else. So the question I want to ask you guys is, how is your time shaping you? How are your hours on social media building you into the person that you want to be or you don't want to be? Your time matters. And that's one of the other schemes that I see the enemy playing out all the time is he tries to devalue your time. How many of you guys are like, I just want to veg and like scroll out and just like be on my phone? Like, again, I have kiddos. I do value at times time on my phone to do absolutely nothing. But what do you think they did back in the day when they didn't have their phones? They just go lay out in the sunshine and lay on a blanket in the grass. They just go sit on a chair and think they read a Bible. Like, it's just interesting thinking about what we now constitute as rest, is filling our brains with things that make us insecure and feel less than or want to buy something. That doesn't actually mean rest. And another book that I read talked about, is your rest or is it leisure? And I actually love the differentiating of rest versus leisure, because scrolling on a phone could be leisurely. I do learn some things. Honestly, Forrest Frank recently has been popping off, and I've loved watching his stuff. And I leave, honestly, more stirred for the Holy Spirit, not going to lie. But that's not rest. More so leisure, not rest. When your soul needs rest, you need to figure out how to yourself rest. I think there's another quote up there. Another verse. Where your heart belongs, there your treasure is true. Matthew 6:21. Yeah, for where your treasure is, there also your heart will be. And this idea of where you steer where you stare. And so this last one from John Mark Comer says, Jesus isn't asking you to do something you're not already doing. All of us are abiding. The question isn't, are you abiding? It's, what are you abiding in? So let's see where you are abiding your time. Did everyone get that sheet when they walked in the door, the attention audit? The backside of it will be a take-home for you if you want to. It's a cool, like, worksheet thing to figure out what your why is to want to create boundary lines around your phone. You got to have a strong why, or you're just not going to do it. Simon Sinek, start with the why. But on the other side of it, we're going to talk about this. There is a list of things that kind of ask you the question of when you pull your phone out. I would love for you just to quickly scan that. Don't fill it out now. We don't have time for it. But just ask yourself that question of, like, how addicted are you to your phone? I can't remember if I had the bathroom on there or not, but like we all probably bring our phones to our bathroom. Oh yeah, I cleared mine out so you wouldn't feel like you were comparing yourself to me. I have gotten better over time. I'm definitely not that good still. But on the bottom, there are 3 blanks. It has your average screen time, your notifications, and your pickups, I believe. Is that true? And your top 5 apps. I want you guys all to fill it out pretty quickly because we only have about 7 minutes left in total. So do you all know how to find your screen time report? If you don't know, listen up. For all you who don't know where it is, listen up. Pull down on your iPhone screen, type in screen, space, time. It is 2 words. Go back to the last page if you possibly can. And you'll see that picture come up. Click on this button at the bottom, and that will bring up your averages from last week. And that's where you can pull all 3 of your data stats. Is anyone confused? I have no idea how it works on Androids. I'm sorry. This is very biased towards Apple users. Can you search for screen time probably on there still?
Yeah, I got it, but it's only giving it by day, not week.
Okay, well, you can do a little kind of 8 times it by 7, divide by whatever, you know? I'm not the best at maths. Okay, does everyone have their numbers? Yeah? Okay, I want you to be very honest. I want you to turn to your neighbor and kind of just share your numbers and how you feel about them. Is it higher or less than you would have thought? Kind of share your top 5 apps that you're looking at and just kind of chit-chat with your neighbor for a second about it. Literally a game. Okay, I'm going to pull some from the audience. Again, we have a few minutes. What were some takeaways? What were some thoughts? Any aha moments? Anything like, oh, shoot, that was way too high. What was yours? Okay, actually, should we ask screen times? No? No? Okay, if you were less than 3 hours a day on average, raise your hand. That's good. Okay, if you were over 6 hours a day, raise your hand. Okay, how many people, after they saw their responses, wants to change their ways a little bit? Okay, who had a takeaway about one of their top 5 apps that kind of shocked them? Yeah, what was yours? Okay, yeah, I'm a lost girl. Google Maps doesn't count. You gotta go out of the utility ones. Those ones don't matter. That's why it's hard, because sometimes it's the Google Maps that kind of screw you over, and there's some utility apps. What shocked me, though, was I spent about an average of 8 hours a week texting humans. It's like an entire workday texting people back, which is wild. Okay, next kind of show hand questions, we run out of time here, is who here has a screen time password protected with a passcode that you don't know? Okay, there's 6 of you guys. Good work. Who here has a passcode or has a screen time limit that does literally nothing even though you have it? Okay, most of you guys, you know how it is. Ignore to 15, 30 an hour. So my last 2 thoughts, and then I'll share some practical things real quick, is there's these 2 quotes about that just kind of when I read them again, they haunted me. I keep saying that, but these ones just kind of resonated in my soul. And this guy named Neil Postman says that we are amusing ourselves to death, which if you look outside in the secular world, all that life is about is entertainment and pleasure. It's the restaurants you go to, the movies you see, the things you go on, the trips you go on. It's all about pleasure outside of a Christian world. And again, trust me, I've been also diving into the idea of delight. It is important to delight in beautiful things. Food and trips and people. That's not all we live for. And this last one is we are distracting ourselves into spiritual oblivion. Again, it's aggressive to some degree, but it's true. We are finding ourselves playing games on our phones or just filling every single moment of time with something where we can't actually just let the Lord speak to us. I am a really bad driver and on my phone when I do stuff. And I'm good at it, which makes me want to do it more, which is just not good, you know? And so those spaces, though, can be creating opportunities to actually just sit and talk to the Lord. So I have a few practical things, and then I'll wrap it up here. Notifications. Do you guys have those turned on for your apps? Good. You shouldn't have them turned on, because odds are you will grab your phone regardless if someone's telling you or not to pick it up. Again, you might think, but for work, I need to have it up there for my emails. If that's the case, then do it, but put a limit on it only Monday through Friday and have it not be turned on the weekends. Do yourself a favor in figuring out how to make your phone work for you. And again, this will take time. I have spent probably close to 5-6 hours trying to figure out what my limits look like to actually create space for me to have my phone work for me. I would suggest and highly encourage everyone to get a passcode they do not know on their screen time. And you're going to hate it. And it's good for you. So at 9:30 at night, my Instagram, my Facebook Marketplace and Facebook, Pinterest, anything that I scroll on, and I also just turned on Chrome. And then I also realized I need to turn on Safari because I found that workaround. And chat. We all find the workarounds, right? But at 9:30, I can't just dilly on my phone. I have to actually go to my computer, which again, there are some things you have to do. So pull out your computer and be active on your computer. That's fine. But on your phone, try to figure out ways to actually create this space that your soul needs and your soul desires to have it there. Set downtimes, which happens on my phone at 9:30 to those apps. And then this is kind of fascinating, but sometimes I just scroll to look for something just to click on. You can now, you might know this, delete all of your apps off your home screen. Which to me, again, you pull it down, you search it up, it's easy to get to it still, but I'm no longer just what should I click on? I'm bored. It actually has helped me create more space for not doing that. There's a way of clicking your side button 3 times to turn your phone into grayscale. Again, you're going to hate it. Like, our phones are not fun when they're not in color. But again, we're trying to do things to give our brain space to actually engage with it. And then I would highly suggest creating like no-go phone zones and be like really strict about it. Like, even just try for a week, no phones in the bathroom. Like, just try it. If you go along number 2, we know how it is. Sit there. I know this is weird, but like, these are actually spaces to like sit with yourself, okay? And being a mom, you have to be practical. There's not a lot of time on your hands to be practical kind of stuff. And one thing I will call out real quick is, if you go on a coffee date with someone and they go to the bathroom, do you grab your phone? Instantly, right? Because God forbid you are sitting by yourself at a coffee table with no one else talking to you. But what would it look like for you to actually just leave your phone there? You don't need to check it because you're going to check it if they didn't go to the bathroom. And think about your conversation with them. What's intentional follow-up conversation? How can you lean into them in the next week? Just, again, be strategic in how you use your time. I think that was all of them. Yes. And the last thing I'll say, a practical step in terms of posting, and then we'll do Q&R, is think about your feed as Paul thought about his letters. Someone were to read your letter, your Instagram feed, to this modern day culture of social media, how would they read your letter? What are you passionate about talking about? How would they understand who you are as an individual? Again, we follow people we do and don't know. People probably follow you who you know and don't know. And it is an invitation to use that platform for good too. So there's not only just bad stuff on there. Again, like I said, I was actually watching Forrest Frank stuff, and it's really entertaining, and I learned a lot from him. So my encouragement is that phones don't just suck. We know that they are good for a lot of purposes. But my encouragement is be aware of how long you scroll and are more consuming instead of actually learning and applying. And to remember that your life is a light to the world around you, and what you post and what you think about matters, and people are watching you. So, thank you guys. Oh yeah, this is my example of why we need to have phone usage protection.
So cute. Well, thank you so much, Krista. That was so enlightening and horrifying all at the same time. For those who don't know me, my name is Kelsey Rutledge. I'm the young adults pastor. So glad that you were here joining us. And I hope you come back. If you feel convicted and you're like, maybe I shouldn't have come tonight, just come back. But we're going to do rapid fire Q&R. And this is always a fun time. So feel free to, now you have permission to go on your phones. I know all night you're like, we're talking about social media, phone use, but here we are contributing to my own screen time by going on Slido. So my numbers are up today because of it, but oh well. So you can either type in that number. I can also move if that's helpful. I realize I might be blocking a handful of you, but that's the QR code. It's been in the top corner. So our first question of the night is, it's loading. Of course, it timed out. How fun. Actually, my phone locks me out also at 9 p.m. So hope we don't have Q&R till that long, or else it'll lock me out of Safari. But so first question is, it seems like we are all addicted to our phones, but yet it's necessary to have one. How can we navigate this?
Yeah, I think just some of those things, like I mentioned, the idea of having some boundary lines on your phones. And it's so tough. Like, again, texting, I feel like is how we communicate nowadays, and I always want to do it when my girls are around, and then I try to not have my phones out when they're around, and then I have like 40 messages, and I'm like, I'm too exhausted, I can't do this. So I still haven't figured out a really great way of doing it, but I think the best like parameter check is if you're just scrolling. Like, that's kind of what it came down to for me. Is like, our phones are so great, and we really have a lot of tools on them, but it's the scrolling that doesn't benefit anyone. Like, I read it somewhere else in a book, and it was like, where are we supposed to scroll and read about someone celebrating a birthday and then mourning a loss and then hearing about a world event across the world that we are now supposed to be like carrying in our hearts? Nowhere in our lives supposed to be able to hear that many thoughts in literally 4 seconds. And so I would just try to stop the scroll. I know it's a very just cliche thing, like stop the scroll and read my post, but it's like stop scrolling and actually know why you're going onto a platform that you're going onto.
Yeah, and to Krista's point earlier too, it's like embracing silence is such a good practical step of like, yes, we need our phones. Do you need to be listening to a podcast while you cook? Maybe. I mean, it's probably enjoyable. That's great. But like, it's like, do you need to be able to have noise 24/7? Maybe not. And so embracing silence and allowing your mind to wander during those times, I feel like can be such a good way to almost like practice that self-control in a really practical way. Next question is, what are your thoughts of using things like ChatGPT and AI in our lives?
Oh, I love this question. JP had a great one on it the other week. It's been really fascinating, actually, how I've kind of have felt where I feel like I cross the line almost with it. Chat is so helpful to like even just get some thoughts down on paper and process through things. So for me, I use it. I personally use it. I use it when I'm trying to build out a marketing campaign for something for the ministry, and I'm trying to figure out how to do timing. I'll like talk out my whole situation to them, and then I'll have it give me ideas. But I think it crosses the line, especially in a ministry role. I see different industries, different parts of all of this stuff. But in a ministry role, when you were trying to shepherd an audience that God's given you, or a friend group, or whatever kind of way you're using it, it devalues your own personal voice. And so I'll write stuff, and like for emails we send out, I'll copy and paste into chat and say, keep my voice, but check for spelling, punctuation, and like flow. And then I'll take those suggestions and put it back into my email usually. And there's a few times where I gave it like I just like would word vomit onto the thing, and it didn't sound like me. And then I used that, I think, twice, and I just didn't feel right, and I felt the conviction to change it up. So I would just say, use it for the things that help you like think about your brain making sense about something potentially. But if it comes to any sort of content creation, I would say you want to use your own voice, because what this podcast is talking about too is that whatever you don't use your brain for, you lose. And so if you like writing, but you're ending up using chat to like refine your writing, you're going to become a worse writer. You're not actually getting better at it. So that has been really fascinating, I think, in that side of context. I haven't really gotten into the whole like using as a counselor yet. I'm definitely more of a people talking to people kind of situation. But it has planned some great trips for me. Like it's done a lot of I was like, I need to find an Airbnb or this place to stay, and it's done a lot of work for that kind of stuff. And it also was a great workaround. My Chrome logged out one day, and I had to go look up something. I used chat, so.
Yeah, it's actually funny. We had last year, we have a recording of it, but we had one of these conversations. It was faith in artificial intelligence. And that was, I feel like, at like the start of when people were talking about it. So to go back to that recording, we list everything in our monthly newsletter resources, and we have a link tree. And I feel like I'm like, oh, now that we're like deep into it, I need to go back and refresh myself based off of what we talked about. But yeah, there was a study that came out recently about, I'm sure people here know, but it's like that ChatGPT is like a part of cognitive decline, which also shouldn't surprise us, right? It's like we're relying less on discernment and more on like what's the easy answer. And so for you and your spirit, it's like if you feel conviction, like you're like, oh, maybe like Krista was saying, it's like follow that and trust that might be from the Holy Spirit. We're not going to demonize it. It's a very awesome thing, but it's kind of like using it in its proper form.
Yeah, and like the other day I was going out to dinner with my husband, and I saw some guy just on chat the entire time. Yes, like talking to like he's on a date with chat, basically.
I think the fact that you're calling it chat and not ChatGPT, it sounds like a name.
Oh, I call it Chatina sometimes too. Sometimes she's a girl. She's for sure.
Oh,
she's one of my coworkers for sure. Chatiana is also another name we use sometimes.
Next question is, do you think dating apps distort or change how we see relationships?
Oh, it's a tough question. I never used one, but I will say that it was so funny. So I remember JJ and I were dating, went to a pre-engagement thing at Bethany Church, and it was like when dating apps were first happening, people were still kind of like scared to say that they met each other on a dating app. I think with how isolated this world works, dating apps, I believe the Lord could totally use them as a tool. I also don't have enough experience, though, to know like the fine line when you feel like you are going in there objectifying people. what I will say though that is fascinating is we have a friend who works with influencers as part of her job, and she was kind of telling me about some of this, like what dating culture looks like when you're famous. And it was really interesting listening to her talk to this guy, what she learned about because of social media. Even though you're a famous guy and like everyone knows you, everyone wants to date you, the girls on the flip side, because they have social media, are still wondering, are you actually that good? Is someone better than you out there? And because of social media, we're all trying to compare what we're looking for in a spouse to someone's like literally only their best attributes about who they are. So it makes it an impossible standard to hit. So whether it's dating apps or social media, I think people just need to be able to give more grace and remember that it takes time to get to know someone. It takes time to build a relationship. And this is kind of different, but like NIL deals with like sports now. My husband working in sports ministry, they don't give time to build culture on teams anymore. You give like a new coach gets thrown in there, a new team gets put together, and they have 1 year to make a success, or they're thrown out. It's like that's not how the world works. And so I think just the encouragement is dating should probably take time. And they might be the whole like love at first sight moment and some really cute meet cute situation that happens, but odds are it takes time. JJ, I was not into him at all for like 4 or 5 months. He had to play the long game, and then I saw his character and I couldn't deny it, and I fell fast afterwards, but like it wasn't a fast thing. So whoever asked this question, I was thinking just ask the Lord to give you the patience and give you almost like supernatural perspective to not be comparing it to some elusive what could be in your head situation.
That's so good. Yeah, I mean, by nature, it's like if you're swiping right or left, it's consumeristic, right? It's like, what is this person going to do for me? And so how could that not distort the way that we view one another just by being like, oh, what can you do for me? Oh, you're not, okay, great. Like, and it's hard when that's a great way to be able to meet people in this day and age, and maybe taking time and pausing and asking the Lord into it. And that's going to sound really like over spiritualizing it, but asking the Lord for discernment of like, hey, maybe like there are things here, like what are the foundational things? Like love the Lord, those kind of things. Maybe am I closing myself off to something? Like, should I give this person a chance? I don't know. It's like good things take time, just like Chris is saying. And so Merrick and I also talk about how if we were both on dating apps, we probably would not have had a good first date together and also probably would not have swiped right on each other. But here we are happily married with a little 1.5-year-old. Anyway, God can do it. And you can get out of the friend zone, ladies and gentlemen. Both of us are great examples of how our husbands were in the friend zone. Anyway, just really.
That's a reach for next year.
Yeah. The next question is, as an extrovert, I thrive on social media and the social aspect of it. How do I cultivate an environment on my social media that pours into me in a positive way?
I love this. And that's the thing too, I want to make sure that I can express is that the Lord uses these platforms for really good stuff too. Like, I think another reason why we see, whether it's Gen Z or Gen Alpha, like, loving God is because they're able to actually go tap into like people who are like them, who are living like Jesus. And so I love that for you. I've also been wrestling with my own heart if I feel like God's asking me to get back on social media, even though like I hate it too. So the question was, how do you create good boundary lines to bring health?
As an extrovert, I thrive on social media and the social aspect of it. How do I cultivate an environment on my social media that pours into me in a positive way?
Yeah, I just think sit down and do a granular audit of who you're following. Like I remember I sat down one day and I spent like literally an hour and a half just like unfollowing everyone. And it's like people that I kind of care about from high school or college. I was like, I actually don't care about you. Right? But it's like I'm like your life
with love and honor, but you love them, but you just don't need to be hearing from them, and that is not the extent of your relationship.
I don't love them because I don't know them.
Just a little edit.
It's like honestly, the thought is you entertain me, your life is entertaining, but I don't know you. So like, why should I put my effort towards carrying your story when I actually have like no idea who you are anymore? So I think whoever you are, I would say be really intentional in curating your following list. And spend some time going through and unfollowing people.
No, that's so good. And also assessing, especially too, it's like a good little check in your, a good check in your spirit is like, do my physical relationships, like with my peers in this outside world, am I feeling connected in that way? Or am I only feeling connected on like, social apps. I think that's also a good like litmus test, and might ask a little bit of a challenge into your life. The next question is, it seems like we are all addicted to our phones, but it's necessary to have one. How can we navigate this? I did. You're right. Thank you for checking me on that. I didn't mark it as red. I lead high school girls. Would you adjust anything in your message tonight if you were speaking to them?
Yes, high school girls. They're the ones that are the most impacted by social media. I would literally say delete your app. I would just my kid, God willing, will not have a phone or a social media account until they're like 16 or 17 or 18 years old. It's just not necessary. So I have a mom friend whose daughter is in this age, and it's so tough because like those networks are their community and sense of belonging. And it's like, unless you have like a full just like control, delete, new friend group that has no phones, it's really tough to navigate it. So I would just be speaking to them a lot about their worth and their value, and like talking about things that they're seeing on social media, like body image, dating culture when they're younger, like just all the things that they're looking at. Like even, actually, just a cool idea, ask them for their Instagram account, scroll through their feed and see what they're looking at, write down topics to address, and then talk about those in your small group time. Because, let the algorithm teach you what to talk about with them.
No notes. Phenomenal answer. Is there anything beneficial about social media? Should we all just delete all of it and if we find ourselves addicted?
I love social media too. So I would say no, but you need to know your own heart. Like for a season, my husband deleted Snapchat because he was just getting fed images of like half-naked girls. It wasn't helping him at all. So if your algorithm is not serving you well, and you're in a season trying to fight against pornography, you're trying to fight to find your self-worth, you're trying to fight around contentment, or you're trying to fight with these things, and it's not serving you, then delete it and like put limits around being able to re-download it and stuff. But if you're in a season of life where you're like, I'm actually feeling like I want to go learn from these certain accounts, then I think it's a great tool. I had this moment the other day as I've been looking more into this stuff, but we are all disciplers of people to some degree, in the sense that we are being shaped by them. So there's this woman that I follow on Instagram. I'm like, imagine who I would have been if I actually started following her and like reading all of her posts when I first started following her like 5 years ago. She's this like really cute girl who has 2 little kids, and she's like has a seminary degree, talks about theology all the time. If I were to commit to actually reading her posts, I would be a lot more educated and have a different perspective than I'd have now than I would have had back then. And so even think about, you can star accounts that you get notified of their posts when they come up or top of your feed. Think about who are maybe 3 accounts that you want to be shaped by intentionally. And like actually star their accounts and let them shape you. And like commit to actually reading their posts, not just scrolling through cute pictures. And because again, social media is a great place to learn stuff. Like I know you send me amazing like parenting videos on it, and so there are tools. It will take time for you to curate your feed to serve you, because it's meant to not serve you and just steal your time.
Yeah, and one example, obviously for me, it's like a photo diary of like remembrance of like, oh, look how good God was in this season. And it's just like reminders of his faithfulness. And I do take time to go in my just nostalgic girl era and like look back and like remember, just because, I don't know, for me, like it's such a marker of God's faithfulness. And then also just like an example of how it can be good. There's this gal on TikTok who's doing 365 days of sharing the gospel. And every time she is like riding up to like a Dunkin' Donuts and just sharing the gospel really boldly, I'm like, I am so encouraged. Like, it's that kind of thing of like when we see people's lived experiences, it stirs up something in us, right? And so it can be used for so much good, and it just needs its proper place. So, okay, time for a couple more questions. Are there any app suggestions on how to lock out of social media?
Yeah, I didn't share this, but I created a guide for the organization that I'm a part of called Live Salted, and it's free. But there's a ton of different apps that are in there. I'm forgetting all of them now. I know you have the brick device. You actually have the tap, and like you can take apps actually off your phone, make your phone a brick. They have one called the Card that is similar to that. And then the one that JP talks about, I'm forgetting the name of it right now. It's in my guide. We can put the QR code later on. But yeah, in my research, it was interesting how much Apple and Android, I did read about this, don't want you to have limits on your phone because it takes you off your phone giving them data. So the only way that I've learned how to do it on your phone is this password, and actually it does lock you down pretty well. But then there are other apps that you can kind of set, like instead of it being, hey, I want half an hour on Instagram a day, it's like I actually want to use Instagram only between 11 and 12 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So again, I forget the name of the app. I'll come back to me.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and we use Brick in our house too. It's like a little magnet that you can like put on your fridge and then tap it, leave, and then you're just locked out. You would need to be physically tapping it back onto that little magnet to be able to get access into it. It's quite effective if you are addicted, like maybe some people up here. And then also too, I would just say, even just, I feel like there's so much, yes, there's apps, but also the power of like asking for accountability and asking friends for help, or, you know, like, I don't think that we should underestimate those things. Like, yes, we have apps and time out, but also people to be able to pray for us. It's like, if we can admit and name, I have an addiction to social media. Oof. I have an addiction to social media. If we can admit that, what would you do if you had an addiction, right? You're going to bring other people into it that are going to be with you in the midst of that. And you're going to seek for wise counsel and ask for accountability and help, right? That's what we do when we have addictions. And so why would we not treat a phone addiction the same way?
Just because we all have an addiction doesn't mean it's any less important to get help too. Because we're all probably addicted. So it's like we all probably can have accountability in some degree.
Yeah. I will do 2 more questions. I have such a love-hate relationship with social media that I feel really guilty when I do actually post something. Any tips for healthy views on sharing?
Yeah, I feel this so much too. Especially after I was like off it for a while, you just feel so bad getting back on it. Like I said, literally, if you just look at your feed as being a proclamation of who Jesus is, then I think it helps. And like, I know that there are times I take a picture and I'm like, oh yeah, I look good in this picture. I want affirmation in this. But then I'm like, why do I want to have a random person like my post, my picture of how I look? And so I think if you just, like truly, it sounds so overly spiritualized. If you ask the Lord to use your feed and what you post to bring honor to him and like curate that space, I bet you he'll honor you in that and like bring you cool DMs about somehow how your story is relating to someone else's story. And just know in your heart, like, you know, if you want someone to say your family looks really cute or you look good or whatever it is, or like, congratulations, you got this promotion. Like, and then I'm reading Ecclesiastes right now, which is just always a trip in your mind, thinking about how everything's meaningless. And at times, social media is very meaningless, but at the end of the day, we're also just called to delight in stuff. And that's another like kick I've been on, is that the life that Christians live is just oftentimes so not compelling. It's so sad. And like, we're called to live compelling lives, like lives that are truly to the full, where someone looks at you and they're like, dang, how is her life so full? Like, what is it that makes her stand out and she's different? Like, we all have access to doing that, and part of that is truly just delighting in the gifts that you have. And so if you're delighting and you want to share about what you accomplished or what you're doing or a trip that you went on, it's okay to show that, because we're also not called to hide back from the gifts that we were given either. So I would just say, like I said early on, view your feed as Paul wrote his letters to different churches to be known in different ways. Like, figure out how to curate your feed in a way that brings others' attention to who Jesus is. And I also don't feel like you need to respond to every sort of social, political thing online either, because you don't need to have responses to everything either.
Yeah, and I think a good kind of like litmus test is like, what is my means to an end? Am I posting this because I'm looking for praise and approval? Am I posting this because I want to remember the good memes? Am I posting this because I feel like I have to post something for my friend? I feel like that's like such a big thing for even like high schoolers right now, is like, you have to repost what your friend was doing, and if you don't post it, you're a bad friend. And it's like, whoa, who made these rules? But I feel like even too for us, it's like, what is like the means to an end for us? And in our hearts, if we're like, oh, I'm posting this because I want that validation. It's like, okay, maybe it's like a time to pause and, go to the Lord and seek that validation from him first, and reminding ourselves that we are sons and daughters of the Most High King, and remembering who he says we are. And yes, if the Lord is like, yeah, post it after, like celebrate that moment, great. But it's like a way to surrender to him in that. Okay, last question. What are practical, can we control our algorithms on social media, or is choosing what is fed to us out of our control?
Okay, I don't know the actual ins and outs of this, but I know there's something on Facebook or Instagram, you can uncheck boxes that they've put you in. I remember doing this for JJ because he was getting some like horrific ads sent to him. We had to go figure out how to like turn them all off, and it was disgusting. Like they just put him in because he's a dude who's the age of 32. Like stuff he never looks up. He was just like kind of in those areas. So I don't know the ins and outs how to find that section. And also I'm not smart enough to know the algorithms of things, but I do know like if you search for it, if you talk about it, they're listening. And so, I don't know. I know my dad does go.go or something, whatever that like incognito browser tab is, because he's scared. Yeah, DuckDuckGo, yeah. Something about ducks and going. So like there are ways to do like incognito tabs and everything to maybe help like limit being watched by the bots, but I don't know enough. I'm not an AI expert. Sorry. Yeah, ask chat how to limit it. Yeah.
No, that's so real. Where it's like on Instagram, you can get like not interested or interested. I know for me, like I have like, diagnosed anxiety. So for me, there's certain things that I'm like, whoa, this is a really easy way for me to get triggered. And so I go to Instagram and I purposely say, do not show me posts like this or hide posts like this. And I think if we're doing that, not just with those kind of things, but with more kinds of things, I think you're going to get a curated feed. Even to someone was laughing at, or I was showing John earlier, I was like, my For You page is just a bunch of matcha. Like it's literally just green. And I'm like, this is beautiful. I really like this world.
I wonder if you can set your age to like 16 or something so you only get like young kid content or like censored content.
I think if you pose as a 16-year-old, that might not be
be wrong too, I guess.
Yeah. One last kind of thing that I'll end
60.
on.
Do like 60, senior citizen maybe.
Yeah, let's go older. One last thing I'll kind of just like share is I was listening to a podcast today called Call Her Holy, and there was actually a really cool word that she talked about, and it was this like phrase of thrown before the phone. And I just thought that was like a really like catchy thing to remember, of like thrown before the phone of, like when I have something that happens in my life, am I going to, my friends first about it or socials about it? Or am I like talking to God about it? Am I discerning with him? Am I just in prayer and communication with him? Am I rejoicing in the things of life? Or am I just running to my phone? And so I feel like that's just like a cool, a thing that for me, I heard that today. I was like, wow, that's so good for a night like tonight. But any last notes from you? Any final encouragement?
Yeah, I think I love that saying. And I think it might be tough if you haven't had a chance to experience a Jesus who speaks, and a Jesus who transforms, and a Jesus who does give you eyes to see the life that he wants you to experience. The whole idea of thrown before the phone might just sound like that's just like gibberish. Like why would I actually prioritize Jesus in my life before my phone? So if anyone's out there and they're like, okay, this whole thing, I get it. My mental health can be better if I don't get on my phone. But it's more than just your mental health. It's like really creating space to hear what God's original design is for you and to let him speak to you in the space that you create to hear from him. Because life is meant to be this like magical journey with him that surprises you at every turn, that challenges you, that takes you out of your comfort zone, that pushes you, that makes you into a version that you never even knew you could be. And yet we never have eyes to see that around us. And so honestly, I would go try to find an influencer or a pastor or family that you want to look up to, and like star their account and like watch them live their life and figure out how to put those habits into your own life, because life is meant to be so much more than we're all probably experiencing right now. And God always has more for us. We have to have the space to actually listen to him and then feel the ache and the yearning for more of him too.
So good. Can we give a round of applause to Krista and thank her? Love it. We are going to take 5 minutes. We'll end our night with some end announcements, but turn to one another. We're going to just discuss maybe like one of 3 of these questions. There should be another one, but what is one thing that you're taking away from tonight? What is a thought or idea challenge an existing belief you have? And moving forward, what's one action step you want to apply from what you heard tonight? So turn to like 2, 3, 4 people around you, maybe choose one question, and in 5 minutes, we'll do our end announcements. Thank you.
Hello. Love the fact that everybody's so locked in and sharing. Is there anybody who can share one good takeaway that can be just shared with everyone in the room?
Is anyone
now you guys are
throwing
so
away
quiet.
their phones after this? Anyone deleting everything?
Anyone take
Nobody?
away?
I feel like I really want to challenge myself to not my I am such a learner too. That's how I end up scrolling. So I think, and I want to do that at night. So if I just get outside the room, that would help.
I'm also like a bad example of just having YouTube as a background noise. I just have I have it on play, and I just like either leave it on the desk. Yeah, it's just running, and I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah.
But anyways, hello everyone. I'm Elliot.
I'm Allison.
Thank you, Krista, for all the messages. I think it was so relatable, and it was just feeling feeling good and bad at the same time.
Very convicting. Convicting is the word he's looking for. Yes. Can we get up for Krista one more time? Sorry.
So FYI, all the announcements we're making today will have link to the specific screen. So if you have any question, if you want to get more info, you can just scan the QR code.
Yes. And if you're new to 20s and 30s, welcome. I've seen a lot of new faces the last few weeks. We meet twice a month on the first and third Tuesdays of each month. And we also have a monthly newsletter that goes out that has all the resources from tonight's talk and past talks as well. So you can scan the QR code to get signed up for that. And you can get information on future outings and events that are happening.
And future events. Okay, future events. We have outing on October 7th. We have line dancing at Watts Brewing in Woodinville. Who's excited for line dancing? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Elliot just learned a couple hours ago what line dancing is, and he was going to prepare a demonstration for us, but I don't think he's going to do that tonight.
And then we have gathering on October 21st about faith and forgiveness, featuring our very, very best Damon Strom. So everyone, in all honesty, he's an amazing guy, and I think it'd be really nice to just get to know him and just listen to him. I've personally had really good experience just from like talking to him. It can get sometimes personal, but in a good way, like very relatable. So he's very down to earth.
And then outside of 20s and 30s, our regular meetings, we encourage you to join or start a small group to engage in community outside of these larger gatherings. I know personally I've benefited from being a part of a small group, and I know a lot of you as well are part of one. Just two to highlight are Isai. He started a group in Redmond for 20s and 30s. That is a group that is currently open. And then the Lice, who are an older couple in our Reach community, started a group in Issaquah, focusing on intergenerational friendships, and they make food every time that they meet. I haven't gone yet, but I would like to go. So check those groups out, or if you're interested in starting one of your own, you can scan the QR code there or come and talk to any of us, and we'd be happy to help you out.
All right. And you guys can hang out till 9:30, but before that, can we have Kelsey just close us?
So really quick, so we, before tonight, we were just praying for the night and just praying what God might have. And obviously there's just so much on social media that we're being exposed to. And I don't know, I just got the sense that there might be something that continues to play in someone's mind that they've been exposed to, that they're like, I cannot stop thinking about this, and this is affecting my everyday life. And you think about it in the moments that you're like, I don't want to think about this anymore. And so if you just like need prayer for renewal in your mind and prayer for healing and a cleansing of your mind, we'd love to pray for you. Totally, you've been there. And yeah, that's not something that we have to just stop thinking about. It's something that the Lord actually transforms and renews our minds. And so we'll have a prayer team up here if you want to come up to the prayer for that. And then did you have something else that, nope. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just also on our phones, we get overexposed to so many different things. So even if you've been exposed to addiction over the years of pornography, or this idea of being not enough by what you can see on other people's feeds or their bodies and stuff as well. It doesn't need to be just the acute nature of what happened this last week in our world. It could be even just things you've consumed in your entire lives up to this point.
And that is all we have tonight. So we are ending the night. Feel free to stick around till 9:30. Thank you so much for being here. Have fun mingling and talking about how we're all going to do better.